At the end of this live session, you'll have your complete playbook for AI market research done right. We're going to share some prompts with you. We're going to talk with you about adoption strategies. We're going to give you a proven 5 steps method, and we're actually going to support you and be there with you with this very annoying task called AI product management and AI market research. So we are here to support you because this is what we do here at the League. This is the Product League stage. Product League is the most trusted mentoring program for product managers by product managers in 30 countries around the world. My name is Maria Cassis. I'm the founder and general manager, and I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. So please go ahead and in the chat, wherever it is that you watch us right now, over LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, let us know who you are, where you're from, and what is your biggest struggle with market research. Now, I'm not going to do this by myself. One of our mentors, Prasanna, is going to join us here on this stage and answer all your questions. He's going to share the tips, the tricks, and everything that you guys need in order to nail this task, because this is what we do at Product League. We help you to become the best product manager you can be. And guys, we're starting right now, so I hope that you're ready. Joining me live from New York is Prasanna Kumar, Senior Product League at ADP and Product League Mentor. What's up? What's up?
Hello.
Hello, Prasanna. So excited to have you here with us today. What's up?
Yep, super excited. I was really looking forward to it. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and people who are signing in from different locations. Hello to you all.
We are so excited to have you here with us. We're so happy to have you with us as a mentor at Product Lake. So thank you for the whole contribution that you bring to the product management community all around the world. And today we're taking one step further with supporting everyone in the audience with this annoying task of AI market research done right, because you can always do that just, a mediocre way. This is not what we're going to talk
Yeah.
about today. No, no, no. We've got the experts joining us and showing us how to do this correctly. Now, what do you say? Are we ready to start?
Yep,
Let's
all
do
set.
that.
Awesome. All right. I think just for starters, I know why you all are here, right? You might have been probably got intrigued with that topic of AI market research, and that's why I'm here today as well, right? It's a really complicated, need of the heart topic, and um, you know it's all about, we have this massive amount of data, and how do we kind of like collect them and turn them into insights that we can actually act upon, right? I'm exactly trying to, provide some clarity today on that, and I'm exactly going to share how AI specifically can transform how we do market research as product managers. Before I dive into that, just a little bit about myself. I'm a senior product lead at ADP, and where I typically work on anything and everything that's AI. I am part of the AI Center of Excellence team, and I help teams lead and drive and build AI products across HR tech. This includes conversational experiences, cognitive solutions, yada yada yada. But my focus has always been building intelligent products that make everyone's lives simpler, smarter, more human. And icing on the cake is I also enjoy mentoring and speaking at communities, and which is where Product League has been giving me this amazing opportunity. Thanks, Maria and team. So, and funny trivia about me, while I'm doing all of that, I think my primary job is, like always negotiating with a toddler, which honestly I think one of the hardest product management problems have ever had. So, having said that, I'm just going to dive quickly into business, right? What I really want you all to walk away with today, three things. First is we are going to talk about the overarching aspect of how we turn data overload into decision intelligence. And typically moving from, like imagine we are in the state of getting drowned in data. And from that state, from point A, how do we get to point B where we make confident decisions, driving insights from that data? Secondly, I'm going to kind of walk you through some of strategies around like embedding AI tools directly into your day-to-day product manager workflows, right? Not really to be as a separate thing from what you do day to day, but as a natural part of how you work. And the third one is typically our ultimate goal here, right? You really need to focus on strategy over synthesis, right? Your time should really be spent on what we should be building and why we should be building, and it should not be spent on manually tagging hundreds of feedback comments, like going through user research, etc., etc. So how do we get there? Just to set the stage here, just to make sure we all are on the same page, I'm going to start with how we do market research traditional way, and then from there we'll be trying to understand the challenges we are trying to solve, and then we'll explore some of the AI tools that can transform the research process altogether. I'm going to be sharing some real world scenarios where we can apply them immediately, or at least start small and get bigger. And we can also talk about the next steps and how to get you started. So let's quickly dive in. Um, what does this image tell you? Does it ring any bell? Imagine we are all product managers. Terms that you see here are typically our bread and butter, our staple thing that we do on a daily basis: user interviews, support issues, dealing with business data, dealing with user behavioral data, NPS feedback. And do you really feel your world has been like convoluted in these different research paradigms? um, that's exactly the problem that I want to talk about today, right? But let me stop here, and I'm just gonna turn it over to you guys, and you guys tell me what do you feel. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the amount of feedback that you receive from users, and how do you deal in that situations? So just keep that comments flowing in. So I just wanted to have this as a more interactive session, not one way. Let's keep it all the way, and let's see how far you feel about this. But speaking of that, let's talk about the traditional market research process, right? It's a common framework. We all know about it. It typically involves these five key steps, right? Starting from how you collect the data from various sources, which you just saw from that convoluted program. And then you analyze the data manually to understand patterns. And finally, you try to generate insights from your analysis, right? And then comes prioritization, right? Which is where most of our time goes into, I believe. We need to find what we need to act on immediately, crawl, walk, run strategies, etc. And finally, there is a continuous loop where we keep refining based on the new information we get from all these channels, right? This is the framework that will be used today towards the discussion and see how we can leverage AI in each of these steps. I'm going to quickly go back to the comments and see. Um, Yeah, Jill from New Jersey. Why do I need AI for market research? That's a really good question, right? That's what I'm going to get to. But typically, making your lives easier and more productive so you can really focus on the things that you need to focus on. Um, how do I use market research to convince people? Yeah, really appreciate you guys. Keep that comments flowing in. All of that is going to be addressed in rest of the presentation. Um, let's see. All right, so coming back here, I'm just going to be walking through the steps of our traditional market research process, right? So I'm just going to stop here and ask you another question. How do you currently synthesize user feedback? Um, Anyone here has anything to share about that? So typically, what kind of channels that you use to, get user feedback and also synthesize them? Yeah, I totally get that. Qualitative data is the hardest challenge forever. Yeah, really hard to get user data in B2B. Yeah, totally agree. Way too much user data. Yeah, I cannot agree more. All right, let's dive into that. So that's exactly where I'm going, right? And just to add another aspect of this conversation, um, of all the steps you just saw, I think, which step do you think is going to um, give you more value when you leverage AI? And I already see comments coming in terms of like collecting the user data, especially in B2B. I come from B2B. I totally hear that. A lot of challenges in getting this enormous amount of user data. Um, yeah. All right, so I'm going to keep progressing while I'm going to check comments on the side. So keep that comments coming in. But let's really dive into our next part, right? Which is, I really want to get started with the challenges that we face as PMs, right? And for lack of a better word, it's like overwhelming data, right? In a way, we can call it as a data tsunami. And typically, the four challenges that PMs face are ultimately slow feedback loops, right? Traditional market research is slow and cumbersome. As you can see, how we saw from those comments, like it takes really good amount of time. By the time you gather feedback and process the feedback, the market must have already moved to a different place, right? By the time we start using LLMs, there is MCPs, and then we start exploring MCPs, and there is agentic AI platforms. And by the time we get into agentic, there's like quantum computing, right? So traditional market research doesn't really keep up to the way how market is progressing and evolving. And the second part is again from the comments, but fragmented data ecosystem, right? Your qualitative data lives in one place, your quantitative data is somewhere else, interview notes are in a different place, analytics lives in a different place, probably coming from a list of dashboards and ML models. It's incredibly hard to form any unified story, right? And the third part is conflicting or ambiguous insights. Feedback often points in completely different directions, right? One user says that, for example, checkout is the most complicated for them, whereas another user says, I'm fine with checkout. I don't really like the payment method, right? So how do you know what to prioritize, right? And finally, the decision making bottlenecks and part of analysis that deals with it, right? So manual tagging and synthesis is incredibly low. This delays decision making. It completely convolutes your prioritization, and ultimately delays responses to your users, right? Like, that there is a problem, that there is like, friction in different parts of your user experience. But if you cannot ship that, or if you cannot solve that problem in time, it's not going to hit the users on time, then what value we can bring in, right? So totally, uh, sort of challenges that we face on a daily basis. Sounds familiar, right? These are the exact problems where AI can help us solve. So let's see how um, all these challenges can be addressed by AI, right? So let's just look at this from a side by side. On the left, you have the problems we just discussed, and on the right hand side, how we can say AI addresses each of them, right? So AI can help us in faster data summarization, which is where I go back to that one comment where it says there's lots and lots of user data. uh, Typically, when 2 years back, when I had the same problem, I had to wait for, an headcount or maybe like an ML engineer for me to build some traditional models around the user data, right? Today, I don't need any of that, right? I can just process these data in seconds, which would eventually take hours or even like a quarter manually. Pattern recognition, this is where, in my personal opinion, AI excels at. It really does a good job in finding patterns across large and messier data sets, and apparently actionable insights, right? AI can help you reconcile conflicting data and surface what really matters. And another aspect here is, AI can really help you in that continuous learning. So AI systems, they get better over time. If you can train an agent that helps you collect the data, that helps you analyze the data, by the same time, it can also, if it can also learn from the feedback and decisions, then what more it can do, right? This is the transformation we are talking about, from drowning in the data sea to, swimming all the way to an intelligent state where we can make informed decisions. So another question coming your way. I know that AI has always been the need of the hour, and it's been like making a lot of noise in the market and in the industries. So have you, what tools do you use so far? Like, just tell me all those tools that you have used so far in your research. That's really helpful. Really excited to be learning from you guys. So let's talk about some numbers here, right? And rather than numbers, like, it's really the impact that we can make with the use of AI, right? All the numbers that you see here, which is like 40% improvement in, time to insight, which is typically like getting raw data to actionable insight in less than half of the time, right? Uh, 10 times more data processing capacity. You can analyze 10 times more feedback without even having an account, like I explained, right? And then 61% faster decision making time with AI tools, right? Making decisions faster means you can kind of iterate and respond to users faster, right? And these aren't just hypothetical numbers, these are real improvements that teams across Google, Meta, and Microsoft have seen after integrating AI in their traditional research workflows. um, the numbers are looking great, but let's get into the process again, right? Just to kind of recap how AI is going to impact in each and every step of our market research process, right? So I'm just going to go through step by step to see how we can make an impact. So let's talk about the very first step where we can collect the data, which is where we want to do this efficiently, right? So as product managers, we know that we are already gathering data from surveys, from user interviews, from NPS, from product feedback, from chat logs, etc., etc., right? But here's how AI makes us more efficient, right? It helps us do a smart transcription and tagging. Like tools like Pendo and Dovetail, they can help us transcribe and tag interview insights in real time. No more spending hours after an interview writing up notes or doing that decision mapping or opportunity mapping. It's all done in seconds. Automated feedback capture, AI tools can aggregate user feedback across surveys, across sessions, and across user behavior, across different apps, right? And these can be automated. You don't even have to go and initiate this. It just runs like clockwork. And one unified stream instead of five different sources you have to manually combine, right? And then the last part is the AI driven data enrichment. AI can automatically pull contextual company or persona data. So let's say if you're seeing user 123 said this, you're actually seeing more attributes and value props to that user, right? So it's not just a user anymore, it tries to profile and persona that person. So it's like a user who's from an enterprise customer and healthcare division and been with this product for 2 years, who's a power user. So it kind of tries adding these attributes and profiling values against each users. So you get as much as context you want so you can action on those insights. Um, let's see if I have more comments. Yeah, ChatGPT Dovetail. Yeah, Dovetail is exactly what I have in my deck here. So Dovetail, I'm a big fan of Dovetail. Um, Gemini, ChatGPT, it's great. Sounds good. Yeah, please keep them coming. Mixpanel does that too. Yeah, I think I've heard about it. I've not used it myself, but yeah, definitely I have to try that. I know it's super expensive. Yeah, I mean the pricing, that's a different conversation. But yeah, all AI tools are pricey. Um, So yeah, I think first step is where just look at the screenshots here, right? It's just an example from Pendo and Dovetail. Like on the left, you see the Dovetail insights, how we can efficiently draw insights from user feedback and user interviews. And Pendo, I believe most of us have used Pendo, and I really love their Pendo Listen feature, which kind of listens to these user behaviors and draws insights. And like I said, the profiling and attributing thing that comes along with each of these data points, so that it gives you more context to act upon. So the second step, right, which is analyzing and kind of deep diving into the data, right? This is where AI really shines, in my opinion, right? It can summarize the trends, it can cluster the data and find behavioral patterns. So finding, I can put it this way, right? It's really finding that ray of light in the noise, right? It helps us detect sentiments by sort of like extracting keywords and doing all the topic modeling and user feedback grouping, and really it's helping us putting all these problems and themes into some coherent aspects. So, as an example, instead of reading like 500 comments, you see the insights, right? You just see 37% of the feedback relates to checkout friction, or which has negative sentiment. You might have seen these patterns in let's say Amazon. So you don't have to go through the reviews, all the reviews anymore, right? You get those insights and recommendations and negative sentiment, positive sentiment. That's the value prop, right? And also it helps you identify contradictory opinions and segment specific feedback, right? This is huge. AI can flag when different user segments are saying opposite things, which you avoid building for everyone and pleasing no one, right? And I think the goal here is that from moving from data overload to data decision intelligence, right? This visual that you see here perfectly captures that. Third step, generating insights, which is typically turning data into an actionable goal. Um, so here's where we are, right? You have analyzed the data. A helps you turn it into actions, right? Insightful summarization. It helps you synthesize these findings into clear narratives or summaries. Instead of a, let's say, 50-page report, you get a crisp executive summary, right? And that's exactly what we are looking for. And also, like I said before, the pattern discovery, right? It automatically highlights anomalies and growth opportunities. So it can identify these potential root causes that is getting this conflicting feedback, right? And then the most important part is persona and journey creation. So where you might have seen in this, all these tools where it helps you create these visual summaries and mock personas from your inside data. So this really brings you um, to a state of life in a way stakeholders can relate to, right? Now, getting to the most important part, right? All that is said and done, like we have collected the data, we have analyzed the data, we have generated insights, but that's only you know part of work done, right? Now the critical caveat is here is like the human layer of interpretation. The human layer of interpretation and the strategic judgment is the key here. AI is incredibly powerful, and it does a lot of things, it saves you time, but it doesn't replace your expertise, right? As product managers, we all use AI as a partner, but imagine, right? We still need to apply the business context, which AI doesn't have, right? We need to make the judgment calls, and we need to make the right trade-off decisions, right? Um, Considering strategic direction and company vision, AI is not going to do that. Right? It's ultimately the value that we as product managers bring into the table, and ultimately it comes down to validating the AI outputs against your domain knowledge. We are the specialist in our domains. And here's where I really want to re-emphasize this thing, right? Think of AI as an incredibly capable research assistant, but it's definitely not a replacement for your strategic thinking. um, you can use that for your context engineering, for your prompt engineering and everything, but ultimately the HITL is the key here. So let's not forget that. um, so just moving on to the fourth step, which is prioritization, which is the most relatable term for all of us here, which is typically focusing on what really matters, right? You've got the insights. Now, what do we build first? But AI can help here too, which is the impact modeling part. AI can score the initiatives based on value and effort and confidence, right? In this example that you see here, you can see how streamlining checkout process has a higher score while expanding loyalty program has a lower score. So this is where I feed in all the relevant context and insights into these AI tools, and I get a sense of prioritization. But like I said, ultimately it's just a competing information, but you as a human in the loop need to make the right decision here. Sentiment plus frequency scoring. So A helps you quantify all of this into strong customer focused issue orientation, right? So something mentioned 100 times with mild frustration might be lower priority than something mentioned 20 times with extreme frustration. So all those automated recommendations comes as part of that, right? Something to call here is, don't just hand over raw data into AI without any context, right? This is a really, really critical point. Garbage in, garbage out still applies here too. Like I said, you need to be providing the business context. You need to define what success looks like, and you need to be specifying your user segments that you want to focus on. Clarify your strategic priorities. The more context you give to these models and the AI, the better the output is, right? It's a partnership and it's not a magic wand. So, finally, moving on to the continuous loop, right? Kind of iterating and refining what we have done so far. And I feel here's where AI can truly transform the process, right? Traditional research is often a one and done report, right? But AI enables these refining insights, so you can just really reanalyze the new data, validate assumptions, and update existing insights as new information keeps coming in. Learning feedback loop, like feed updated insights back to refine hypothesis and next experiments. So that's the key part. Let's really dive into a real world example, right? Imagine you want to run a workshop for identifying opportunities and deciding what to build next with your triad, right? Let's say you have this workshop with your UX partners, your research partners, and your development partners, right? This is a common scenario, right? Let's see how AI transforms this process. Here's how, just a quick recommendation of how this can really happen, right? Um, do the pre-work. As product managers, we always tend to do that homework. Here's where you can use Pendo AI to identify insights from your various channels of feedback, right? Your NPS, your surveys, product feedback, etc. So this gives you a head start before the workshop even begins, right? And what's the next step? Interview users to get qualitative depth, right? And then you can use Dovetail AI, like many of you mentioned in the comments, to summarize those interviews and extract the themes. Hours and hours of interviews become a clear set of themes in minutes, right? Third step, you can use any foundational models, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, to use this advanced data analysis to identify opportunities and come out based off steps 2 and 3, right? Now, here's where you really connect the qualitative and the quantitative part. So what's the next step? Prioritize, right? And again, prioritize with or without AI. As product managers, we can use our judgments. At the same time, we can use these tools and additional insights from AI. The final step is, which is my favorite step, which is building prototypes, right? Build UX mocks. I love Figma Make. I love Magic Patterns. Lovable is another popular AI tool. So it's just where we can do all the design explorations. And the last step is validate these concepts with users, right? Have a group of users, validate with them, and then iterate. The entire process, what you've just saw, usually might take weeks. It can now happen in a couple of days over a workshop, right? So that's the real impact that we are seeing. Speaking of organizational adoption, right? Let's talk about, I really want to address this here, right? Product managers, as we work for, larger enterprise and organizations, there's always a challenge to get that stakeholder buy-in, right? If you have the best AI insights in the world, but if nobody trusts them, they won't drive decisions, right? So some of the four key principles that I would recommend here, which is, start really small, but you can scale gradually, right? Don't try to transform everything overnight. Pick just maybe like one problem or one workflow, prove the value, and then expand. Also involve stakeholders, right? That, which is something I believe all of us do very efficiently. But to get that buy-in, including the right people in the process, not just presenting the final outputs, right? And visualize insights in dashboards. So make AI insights visible and accessible, not hidden in a black box. And also building that trust in AI augmented insights, right? Show your work, explain how AI arrived at recommendations, validate the inputs, and build that credibility over time. So those are the key principles that I would say. So now that I've done all the talking, tell me what you feel. How would you get your stakeholders in your organization for that buy-in, or how do you get your folks trust these AI insights? I'd like to hear from you. But yeah, I'll let that comments flowing in. But like I said, where do we start is a good question. But like I said, always start small. um, Always maintain that human in the loop. Always review AI summaries for nuances and bias. You are the expert. but always make sure that AI is your assistant, right? And try mapping AI outputs directly to roadmap decisions, right? This is how you measure impact. Uh, this insight that AI has given me has led to this feature which achieved this outcome, right? So you need to have that mapping, documented and recorded. So that's how you prove your ROI, and build this organizational trust and buy-in, right? But again, the key is to start now, right? Don't wait for the perfect setup. Pick one pain point and address with AI. Go for that workshop, and you make use of these tools. Let's see if I have any comments here. Showing them how the companies are doing really well with AI. Yeah, that's a really good idea, and I think which is where all these information is publicly available, right? Like we just saw the insights. We know how good uh, Google have transformed their research processes, right? All these numbers and impact on numbers that we just saw are really from researchers that's done from Google and Meta, right? So that's a really good point. So I think some of the resources and next steps that I put in here, I although I forgot to add one more book here, which is the Discovery Insights by Teresa Torres. I'm gonna add it to the slide before it goes out. But whatever tools and books you see here should be a good starting point for you all to get started with. Um, and also, some of the AI tools that we have here works on good prompts and good contextual engineering. So I've tried to put some proven, well result oriented prompts for each of the steps. So when it goes out, you can always check that. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave a lot of time for us to discuss. And if you have any questions, bring it up. But just to wrap up, whatever said and done, we are living in an era of data overload, right? The traditional way of market research or doing discovery, it can't keep up with time, right? AI gives us all these tools to turn that overload into intelligence, to focus on really the strategy instead of synthesis, right? And ultimately, it is going to help us build better products faster, right? The key is to start small, maintain that human judgment, and continuously keep iterating. The PMs, in my opinion, who embrace these tools always have that significant competitive advantage. So I believe this might have given you a good starting point to get started with. So thank you so much for the time today. But I will jump into the questions and see if anyone has anything.
Yeah, there are many questions here. You got them hungry for your answers. So let's see what we've got here. We've got John asking, oh, okay, he's saying he just shared a comment. Okay, well, wait a second. This is not what I want to show. Okay, we're going to do it differently. I'm just going to show you exactly what to answer.
Yeah.
So, we are starting with Guy, and he is asking, my biggest issue is with market research is researching for information that requires payment. So when you actually need
Hmm.
to ask people about a situation where you need to test they're willing to pay, and it's always easier to ask people whether they pay or not than actually making them pay. So how do you do this research? That's a really nice question, Guy.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think I kind of see this in two different aspects, right? One is in a if you're in a B2B space, it becomes really easy, right? You know who your clients are. They're already paying you. They're kind of like obliged to give you all the information that you're looking for. But it really becomes a challenge in like a B2C space, where like your users might be not really willing to provide you information. So I think if you're in an enterprise setup, I would encourage you to work with your research teams to get really to have that researching over. But I think it's just finding the right audiences to get the information, right? So it really depends.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about budgets.
Hmm.
Jill is asking, which services do you pay for? It's hard convincing a startup to pay for so many. So if you have to prioritize, we saw
Right.
Panda, we saw Dovetail. Obviously, all LLMs that known to us are also part of that, all the agents. So what should they pay for?
Yeah, I would say the first three steps, right, where we I think data collection is still a good approach if we do the traditional way, but turning that, analyzing that data, doing that deep dive, and converting that data into insights is where, like, AI can really save a lot of time, right? Like, if you have millions and millions of data that has user behavior, you won't be able to do that online. I mean, with manually, right? So I would say, prioritizing is a good thing that you're bringing up, Maria, here. But I would say, at least for turning that user data into insights, where
Yeah,
tools like Pendo, Dovetail, and specifically all these ChatGPT type machine learning models can help.
yeah.
I think that's where you can really push for, and the impact is evident, right? We it really saves, like, 10 times more how faster you can move, right? So
So stop right there because this is
Mhm.
Amanda's following up follows questions. Why
Mhm.
did you choose Pendo and Dovetail? Can you give her just a little bit of what can you do? How do you play with it?
Sure. The reason why I chose is really because not my decision, but it's part of my company's decision. So, but Pendo and Dovetail are the leading, I would say, industry experts in doing this data analysis, right? Pendo usually for user behavior and how users are using your product, kind of their whole user journey, right? How do they get in? Like, where are the friction points? Where are they spending more time? That's where Pendo really shines. Dovetail is really about user interviews and how you interact with the users, right? Typically, let's say you speak to 100 different users over moderated and unmoderated research sessions, and then now you have like 100 different meeting notes, transcripts, and excerpts, etc. Um, you know, who's going to do that manual mapping exercise? So I think Dovetail does a really good job of turning those loads and loads of data into summarized, really insightful information. So I used a couple of other apps, but Pendo and Dovetail are really standing out, and I can really literally see the impact and results that I can see. So typically,
It
that's the
works.
reason. Worked well for
Yeah,
me. Yep.
exactly right. Okay, another question from a friend, and this is about the human aspect here. Okay,
Mhm.
so she's got the tools. This is great. How do you find the correct audience for us to interview? Because as you said
Mhm.
wisely, it's not just about having the tools, right? It's about knowing the business, knowing the market, knowing what's in, what's out, and how to navigate within that to get the little things that will tell you so much about what the customer is looking for. So how do you find them?
Yeah, exactly. I think the devil is in the details, right? Like, let's say if you are, let's take an example, right? If you're watching the Pendo behavior, and I'm going to pick an Amazon example, right? You can see how users are going through the shopping experience. And let's imagine some of the users are dropping out in the checkout. That's your insight, right? And then you can see how users may be in specific location, or maybe some sort of specific geographical area or specific age group. Like, you can really profile. So that's where Pendo gives you this additional insights of who your users are. Like, it's not only like users are going through this friction points, it also tells you more about the user. So that way you can really capture that profile, that specific group of audience. You can maybe try reaching out to them, right? But again, in order to find the right audience, you need to find the audience who are really struggling, or who has this friction and pain points, right?
Correct.
So again, Pendo is my answer.
Loving that. A nice
Yeah.
comment from another frat is I will add that you need to make sure that the data points are that you set are set up correctly and that you understand that. Now, I love
Mhm.
this comment. And I chatted with her a little bit over YouTube where she commented. And I told her,
Mhm.
yes, exactly right. Because this is why product managers should actually know how to do this and not just tell the engineer, go ahead, do that for me, fix that for me, and I will just take a look afterward and check the data, because you need to actually understand what's in there,
Yeah.
because it's not just about the technical aspect. The technical aspect is the how, but it's not the why and the what.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think the lines are blurring, right?
Yeah,
We have seen how product managers are, kind of evolving into the product builder aspect. And it's like knowing everything and anything, right? It's not just about handling the user experience part of it. It's also like diving deep and understanding what it really means at a data point level, right? Um, so totally agree.
I love that. Now, if I am to challenge you before we are closing this session, Prasanna, if you need to give everyone in the audience one tip on what to do different, like tomorrow morning when they are heading the office, what is that? What is that tip?
Start small but start tomorrow, right? So I think, yeah, pick that one problem. Most of the comments that I've seen here is, how do I get that buy-in, right? How do I get that budget or anything, right? So make a strong use case, pick a very simple problem, and then just see how you can position that and get that budget, so that get access to these tools, and you will see the change happening.
Absolutely loving that. Prasanna Kumar, Product League Mentor, thank you so much for this session today. This is what we do here at the League. Amazing mentors like Prasanna are sharing their know how with the next generation of product leaders all around the world. Thank you so much. I had such a great time having you here on this stage, and I'm looking forward for the next time.
Thank you so much, Maria, for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined us. Bye bye.